Basketball lifestyle, it's my lifestyle.
2, 1. Welcome back to the Grounds Crew, ladies and gentlemen. I'm your host, Josh Gerson, along with my co-host,
Bill Ron, back at it again.
He is back. He's doing well. We're happy to have him back.
Healthy.
Bill, last week was a big episode, and we were sorry that you couldn't be there. So I want to definitely rehash some things because there's a lot happened in the week since the CBA was passed.
Yes.
Before we get started, as always, make sure you like and subscribe. Toss us a review. Follow us on all social media at @the_Grounds Crew. Bill, so do you need a recap of all the things that happened, or is there anything that stuck out to you want to start with?
Let's recap for the fans. Go ahead. Hit me.
Okay, cool. So, big moves. Matt Olson was traded to the Braves.
So that was one of the more surprising things, just because ultimately it ended up looking a lot like Freddie Freeman in terms of the monies and how things went.
Yep.
It was very interesting to just see that the Braves kind of ownership and management had decided that they were done with Freddie.
Yeah.
And they were ready to exchange Freddie for somebody else. For the Braves, you sent prospects for Freddie Freeman? It just, again, overall, it was a surprising move, but a great move. Great player. Going to help them be a good thing. I don't think Atlanta got better, but they didn't get worse. Long-term prospects, you never know with a prospect.
Yeah.
You can trade guys away. I think even guys, unless you see somebody who's got a super magical tool, it's rare that a prospect is going to show up to the degree we all want them to.
Right. Yeah, I think that I would say Matt Olson and Freddie Freeman are definitely comparable, but you get Matt Olson, now he's just younger.
Yeah.
So,
but
fine. I thought it was worth it for them to just keep him. Freddie hadn't shown zero signs of falling off.
Zero.
So,
and he was fan favorite, community, been there, doing it. Listen, if I got to run a team, it's the move I would have made.
I know.
Because I think that everybody holds on to nostalgia way too much when they're in this thing.
That's what we said. Fans are irrational.
So I was just surprised to see a team run it like it was, MLB The Show, and this is, an overall rating and an age thing and a potential thing, and not a
coming off a World Series with your best player.
What's the back of your jersey say?
Yeah.
So I liked that from that side. Just again, very surprised to see it happen. And we'll see how it plays out.
Yeah. And then right from there, Freddie Freeman signed with
Going to the Dodgers. We want to call it the Cohen tax. If it looks like the ownership of the Dodgers was like, hold my beer.
Yep.
And they just roll out and sign Freddie Freeman to this massive deal. Trey Turner got bought out of his arbitration. He's making $20.
Yep.
That team is paying through the nose right now for people. Crazy that they invested even more in, because I don't know the actual logistics of it. If Bauer's money counted last year on their cap,
yeah, I'm not sure.
And if Bauer's coming back this year, Bauer's they got a lot of money already going out.
Yes, but I think the way I read somewhere that the way Freddie's deal is structured, it's not. It's like a lot of the money's deferred until beyond the contract.
I don't care. I don't like. So everybody's doing what the Mets get made fun of, and we talk about
Bobby Bonilla.
We've talked about this on a past episode.
Yes.
The Bobby Bonilla thing that the Mets did is one of the best financial business decisions that's ever happened in baseball. How do I know that that's true? Because right now, Ken Griffey Jr. is one of the top paid players on the Cincinnati Reds.
Oh, yeah.
And all of that is because the Mets did something that people like to laugh about, but the deal they made is better than all of the other deals that have been made subsequently.
Yep.
So, again, people like to make the punching bag out of the Mets for the concept. With Freddie, the only downside I see with an organization like that is, and this goes to soccer. You guys see what happened? I don't even remember the team because I don't follow European soccer enough. But one of the teams was borderline bankrupt. I think it was Barcelona. And they were like $1 billion in debt.
Yes, I believe it was Barcelona.
And they were pretty much told, like, you have to reshape this entire thing. You got to sell off players. You can't do any of the things you did. I'm looking at the Dodgers. How are you guys financially going to do this? Because now you're paying guys who aren't even theoretically on that cap necessarily. They're not even really part of that number. And you're going to be paying Freddie for the next 15 years. That Dodgers, to me, unless they've got just oodles of cash, they're spending $500 million to play baseball this year. And if not this year, they're going to be spending $500 million next year, the year after. Somewhere in there, a lot of this deferred cash starts to pile up on itself.
Right. At some point, is their team going to slide dramatically back to
Earth? or are they going to be forced to sell a team to somebody else because it's cash strapped and there's no profits and there's no money and there's no anything?
Or is their money just endless and they're just
or their money's endless?
Yeah.
My money long.
I guess I don't know. So that is an interesting point, and where they end up, who knows? But right now, I think they see it kind of how like the Rams did it, where it's like, hey, we have the pieces, we need to put our foot on the gas, and if not, like it's not worth it.
The Rams, the entire NFL.
The entire NFL, yeah.
Like,
I guess.
Let's pause. There is nothing. People can say hot stove all they want. Mm-hmm. The hot stove is trash compared to what the NFL got going on.
Oh, their free agency is electric.
Oh, my Atlanta.
Yeah.
Like, it's not even free agency. It's the trades.
Or, okay, off-season.
It's every drop of, like, the draft is coming up, and people are out. There's mock drafts every other day.
I know.
Like, there's just so excitement over any drip of information. It's so bonkers how the NFL just owns sports.
Yeah.
Specifically the AFC right now.
It's specifically the AFC. The AFC's out here just like we're playing in a completely different league.
Yep.
Than the NFC. NFC's out here like, we'll re-sign Jameis Winston. AFC's like, we'll take all your best players and bring them over to our division to compete for titles.
It's an absolute bloodbath of the conference.
So, but getting back to the whole thing.
Yeah.
Crazy for Freddie to be a Dodger. It makes me now wonder who's going to be the next team to step up. Because somebody's got to do something. They look like a runaway train again.
Mm-hmm. I mean, step up in terms of what? In terms of spending?
No, in terms of acquiring players of that quality on your team.
Right.
Even if you already are stacked and loaded at numerous positions. Mm-hmm. Like the guys got to just start making moves.
Yeah.
Like at Padres, you did all that stuff last year. Y'all are not winning the division.
No, not a chance.
So what did you do it all for?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. And I would say the Mets made at least an attempt to do that, but they definitely played it safer than the Dodgers are in terms of the the amount of stars that they got. Like they obviously spent a bunch of money on Scherzer and they got some good players and whatever.
Well, so
but
it really
it's not
comes
to the level that the Dodgers
it really
did.
comes down to how good you think Starling Marte is.
Yeah.
It really comes down to what you think Marte is.
Right.
If Starling Marte is the best center fielder in baseball not named Trout, the Mets had a killer offseason, right? You got the second best pitcher in the game, Hall of Famer.
But I can't say that because Starling Marte already said that he's not going to play center field all the time. So automatically
Brandon Nimmo is
sure. But like Mike Trout doesn't not play center field ever.
Yes, he does. He goes to the bench and he is
sure,
injured.
but he doesn's play right field.
Yeah, well, he goes to injured list.
Yeah,
I'd rather him go to right field, not be injured.
Fair. Maybe that's something he'll have to bridge will have to cross later in his career or now.
Should already be thinking about it because he's been missing a bunch of games lately.
Sure has. We were talking about the Angels too. Like, I want them to have a shot this year, but I don't think they do. They're not. They're like maybe the third best team in the West right now.
So again, it comes down to what do you actually think of the roster?
The Angels?
Yeah,
I think they have a solid team. I don't think they're going to win the division with that team.
But and this is my thing. If Trout, Rendon, Walsh, and Ohtani are at their best, that's 4 guys in a row who are 30 home run guys.
Yeah.
Tell me the team who's got that in their lineup. Phillies maybe, and that's because they got a small-ass park.
Sure, also. But, I mean, the Mariners.
Blue
put
Jays.
together a nice team.
I don't think the Mariners necessarily have done enough to me that I look at them and go, they're definitely like their top end is better than the Angels' top end right now. Because again, I think I have a higher regard for Syndergaard than other people do. I think Syndergaard. You look at his numbers; he had the lat strain and then tore his elbow out, and we're forgetting how good he is at his prime. At his prime, Noah Syndergaard's top 5 pitcher in the league.
Sure. But I just don't know what you're really going to get. So
I think you're going to get a guy who's close to a top 5 pitcher, and that's my point. It's like for $20 million, they got a guy who's going to come out, and he's going to shove, and he's going to have a low 3 ERA, and he's going to strike out a whole bunch of guys. And that's going to allow Ohtani to do his thing. Plus, now with the Ohtani rule, Ohtani's going to be in the order a lot longer.
Yeah.
He's not going to be shuffled around. They're not going to have as many things. That team gets magically deep because, like we've talked about with Ohtani, with him being able to stay in your lineup as the DH and the pitcher, he changes the entirety of how you focus on that game. He's so valuable.
Yep.
So, like, when he's going to get more at-bats in games that he pitches. So he's not going to have to come out like
he'll get at least 2 more at-bats a game probably.
To me, you stack that up. I think he was having to carry the load too much last year because all 3 of the guys I just mentioned missed substantial time throughout the course of the year, and it was pretty much Ohtani out there taking it by himself. You look at when Ohtani had some protection, he's a 285 batting average guy, not a 250-something batting average guy.
Early in the season he was.
He's going to be better this year with the bat. Now, I don't know if he's going to be as blisteringly good on the mound as he finished last season, but if he is, I'm sorry. I think that team, it really rests on, to me, Rendon. Because if Rendon is the Rendon he was, at one point in time, Rendon is arguably the best third baseman in the game.
Sure.
It's why he's got the contract he has.
Yep.
What was the season? Dietz, can you pull up his last season with the Nationals and tell me what he was? That's why for me, like I don't Mariners to me, they've done some stuff. I don't think they've done enough that like a fully loaded Angels team because we don't know. That Angels team last year that hovered around 500 was Ohtani by himself.
Yep.
You added Syndergaard, Mike Trout, and Rendon. That team might be dirty.
Could be. These are the numbers.
Rendon's last season with the Nationals, he had 34 home runs, 126 RBIs, 319 batting average, 1010 OPS.
It's a great player.
That right, you're talking that there's going to be 4 dudes with close to 1,000 OPS with a 900 OPS plus 950. And then you put Syndergaard with Ohtani. I do think that they need maybe a piece or 2 more. But I really, they're going to have to see how the start of their season shapes up. But I could see a situation where the Angels start off hot. They start off, call it 25-15, and the ownership and management go and get somebody.
That's really for me is like when I think about all this is yes, they have a great lineup. Ohtani's a great pitcher. I don't know what to expect with Syndergaard. I do err on the side of he is a great pitcher and pass, so he could have a good season and be all healthy and all that. But they do, I feel like, need one more to really make that leap because as much as the Mariners may be comparable to the Angels, they just added Robbie Ray as an arm. They still have to go through the Astros.
I think Robbie Ray's overrated. I think
but he is
we've
at
had
least
that
coming off a Cy Young year.
But that was the anomaly year in his entire career.
Yep.
And it's not like and we used R.A. Dickey as the example. He is not what R.A. Dickey was. He is a much worse player than R.A. Dickey was when R.A. Dickey was that guy. And unless he's going to magically go and learn the knuckleball that R.A. Dickey was using at that time, his stuff is fine. But you look at his underlying numbers, his FIP was not matching what his overall ERA ended up being. And that's why, again, I think that they got a better pitcher than they maybe had. But I don't think that we should be looking at it that they're walking in and they've got a dominant lights-out guy who's another Cy Young award is in his bag. Like,
sure. I would say you honestly probably could compare him to Ohtani in terms of pitching numbers from like a level of him probably in all reality being at this level a 3 ERA guy.
Sure.
So wash there, and then it's like what's the depth from and that's where I say
then it's Syndergaard.
Right, but I don't.
My thing is Syndergaard's better than both of those guys as pitcher.
Maybe.
No,
That's what I'm
Syndergaard's better
saying.
than both those guys.
I want him to show me. That's all I can say.
Hold.
You can
up.
show me his past numbers. I
Hold
understand.
up.
I'm just saying.
Who's the last guy to come off of TJ? Like, legitimately.
Oh.
I have a guy in my head.
I don't remember.
I have a guy in my head.
Who came off TJ recently? Lance
Who's the guy?
McCullers?
The guy is, and again, what
McCullers.
Syndergaard did not do that he could have done, but at that point in time, they were just like, hey, we're not in it, so we're not going to have him come back and pitch. He didn't make those, like, touch-up starts at the end of the year that add to it. Zach Wheeler. Zach Wheeler's first full season coming off Tommy John, 29 starts, a 3.3 ERA, went 12-7. From that point, he never had an ERA over 4. Last 2 years with Philly, under 3.
He's constantly overlooked for signing.
Absolutely miss me with we think that Syndergaard, who was better than Wheeler up until the injury, is going to be much worse than what Wheeler was.
I don't think he's going to be worse. I'm giving him, in my head, he's going to be a 3.3 ERA. And it's like, cool, exceed that if you do. If not, that's still a good pickup for what they're paying.
And I think you're going to look at Robbie Ray, and people are going to be upset when he's got like a 4 ERA.
I'm sure that
considering that his career ERA is a 4 after just having a 2.84 ERA season.
Mm-hmm. Could be.
And he's how old? How old's Robert?
34.
No, don't tell me that. He's 30.
Okay.
So he's 30 years old, and he's a 4 ERA guy.
Okay. We'll see. I think the AL West is super interesting. Honestly, me and Josh were going through it last week. There's a lot of teams that have a lot of potential, and if all the chips fall in the right places, they could be a great team.
Who are you guys? So again, like the elephant in the room always for the West is Houston.
Yep.
Right? Like they're always there. Now, they lost Correa.
They did.
Right? That's a big piece of the pie. Do we think they're going to drop off that much from everything?
Not really.
I have a hard time shaping that they're going to drop off that dramatically. Mm-hmm. And they were a great team last year. The Mariners, to me, outperformed and outkicked their coverage by leaps and bounds last year, and I can't look at that as that's who they are. And the Athletics got worse by
the A's are easily the worst team in that division now.
By a fair amount. By a fair amount.
And
so, like, I think the Angels just get better because of health. Then on top of that, you add Noah Syndergaard. I don't think the Mariners are better. And
that's fine. No, that's why I look at them as
Houston
comparable.
Got worse, so like it's going to be a 3-headed monster.
Yes.
But I think the Mariners. What's the Mariners' next move?
I would say if they are in contention, they need to add another arm.
But like, do you think they after doing what they've now recently done? Do we feel like they have any big triggers left for them to pull? Because I think a lot of what's happening with the Mariners relies on how Kalinick looks.
Yeah, to some degree. I mean, they also, now that I think about it, they did also move on from Justin Dunn.
Yes.
For Winker and Suarez, which I think was a good trade, and I think it moves them closer to winning that division. But I agree. I think the three of them, Angels, Astros, and Mariners, are all relatively level playing field, and then that's what I'm saying. I think they're all good teams.
But I don't think the Angels have done anything recently. They haven't shot any shots. They haven't lost anything.
Because in theory, they already have the pieces. So it's like, it's just they need to stay healthy and do it.
And that's my thing. Like,
yeah.
They could go and trade their top prospect for an arm. The Mariners have already moved a lot of the top prospects that they're willing to kind of deal around. They've done going out, young guys like that, moving along. Like, they've already shot a shot. Houston just got worse by losing maybe their best player. Mm-hmm. So, like, and the pitching staff is just going to erode and has to over time from just, like, not being what it was a couple of years ago.
Well, they do also. They did. I mean, they are getting Justin Verlander back.
But Verlander can't continue to be like Verlander's 60, 65. Like Verlander is as far as pitchers go. Like Verlander is getting up there in age.
Absolutely.
I know he can still ball. However, we can't continue to believe
I'm not looking at him as
that
the top arm.
Verlander's going to come out and be that guy. So my point is that you're steadily declining from your pitching staff. Your best potential overall player is gone, and he played quote unquote the more premium infield position.
Right.
I just again I don't know what that team looks like, but they know how to win.
Yes.
So because they know how to win, I think that helps them. But yeah, to me, it's super interesting that division. The biggest surprise move for me,
Sure.
and the move like the thing that I felt like they finally did, and we've been talking on the show for a while about the Yankees. I actually think that people are underselling the Yankees.
Okay.
And I think people are underselling the Yankees by way too much. Who was the big trade or the big signing the Yankees made this offseason?
Well, the trade they made was for they moved Gary Sanchez and Gio Urshela for Josh Donaldson and Isaiah Kiner-Falefa, the shortstop.
So just as a 1-for-1 trade, the Yankees won that trade upside down and sideways, separate from cash.
Mm-hmm.
They got the better third baseman. They got a guy who can actually play shortstop for them.
Gold Glove shortstop.
And at an elite level, and they took away, and we've talked about being misaligned as a team, they took away a guy who needed more at-bats at DH and was never going to get them, so he was a trash catcher consistently.
Yep.
And by doing that, you realigned the entire team, and you made everything
Josh was
better.
clapping behind you.
Right?
Yeah.
So, separate from that, what was actually the big trade that the Yankees made this year? Who's their outfielder?
Joey Gallo.
Last year's trade deadline trade for Gallo, like, we're going to forget that he's a good player?
No.
And, like, what he has? And that's magically gone?
Yep.
So, like, did he underperform when he came over? Absolutely. Underperformed wildly, right? There's a massive transition entering into a pennant race and getting after it in the middle of a season, right? So, to me, you look at all the things, I actually think they've improved. Now, the downside is their pitching staff is still an atrocity. And if I hear another Yankee fan tell me that Luis Severino is the truth and he's going to save us, guys, he's been looking to save you for 5 years now. And he's never going to save you because he's not good.
Yep.
He's a reliever that you're asking to be a starter, so he breaks down and his arm explodes and he's done. Stop. You got one pitcher and a great lineup. They need something. I do think it's funny hearing Yankees fans, though, complaining about not signing people.
Yeah.
Because I think that the rental of Donaldson is a benefit because you're not going to pay him for a long term. And they have to save money for when they do the Judge deal, if they're going to do the Judge deal. So, like, you couldn't get Correa for 3 years. And you couldn't go and put the money that Trevor Story got for $21 million a year to just be a bat.
Yep.
Right? Because I think they got better at shortstop with where they're at now, defensively. And what's going to happen? You put a guy in Yankee Stadium, what happens? He doubles his home runs.
Absolutely.
So I think he hit 8 home runs or something last year, 6 home runs, 8 home runs. Held to be a double-digit home run shortstop with a Gold Glove, ability.
And I think there was the two ways of thinking about it. People wanted either go get the shiny shortstop or subscribe to maybe your way of thinking of wait on or get the Band-Aid until our prospect, who supposedly is the next Derek Jeter.
And if he's a stud, right?
Yep.
You have a guy on your team already who's defensively can move to the bench and be an elite guy for you to spell him when he goes through the slumps and he goes through the things. Hey, we got a guy to be there for you. Mm-hmm. Cool. Relax. I actually think from a team-building standpoint, the Yankees did a phenomenal job. It's what I've been asking for them to do.
I think so, too.
The only thing they could do that would make me feel even better is trade Aaron Judge for an arm. But I know they won't do it.
No. Because
they're not the Atlanta Braves who are actually trying to win. Mic drop.
Would they use Joey Gallo as a trade piece?
So I would tell you that.
Because this is his last year as a contract as well, I believe.
But Gallo is all of the same things with a worse bat. He's not going to cost you what Judge is going to ask for. Mm-hmm. And because of that, when you're looking at team building, you have to look at it from that team building standpoint also. Putting the money into Gallo. Let's say Gallo makes the Trevor Story amount, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's a $20 million outfielder who is great defensively, great arm, going to hit big home runs, and we hope his batting average improves because he's in Yankee Stadium and he's in the AL East consistently.
Right.
That guy fits the mold. Judge is a phenom player. He is an amazing player, but he also most likely has to take more bats at DH consistently. And his outfield is not going to be as much of a plus for him all the time. So going to a team where he can DH more and play 100 games in the outfield and play 60 games at DH and give himself more like rest on his legs, never have to play more than 2 games in a row in the outfield. You can't do it with both him and Stanton. Stanton's still there for a minute. I would keep Gallo, and I would get a massive package pulled in for Judge. And I know that sounds crazy. And
Listen, it
nuts,
sounded crazy that the Braves wouldn't sign Freeman.
Facts.
So anything is possible. Unfortunately, it is a business, and people got to understand that. But yes, looking at their rotation, it's quite the fall off after Garrett Cole. As much as Jordan Montgomery and Luis Severino are fine, they're not going to win you.
How are you guys guys? Do you think they can compete with the Blue Jays?
Sure, yeah, but the Blue Jays especially, listen, before this offseason started, we were like, yeah, the Blue Jays are disgusting.
Oh, last year I said nobody wanted to see Blue Jays in the playoffs.
And then
they would have been in the World Series.
After this offseason, whew, my goodness.
Nuts.
They added Gausman, they re-signed Berrios, they added Matt Chapman. So to your previous
who else they signed?
They added they signed a lefty pitcher from the Mariners actually, whose name I always forget. I don't
want and then Trevor Story signed with Boston.
Trevor Story signed with Boston,
right?
Yep.
That's the bigger problem that the Yankees have.
The Rays are also always going to be the Rays, always a solid team.
The biggest problem that the Yankees have is the Blue Jays exist, and so does Boston.
Yeah.
And that's more the issue. It's less that I think they're not doing a good job, but that's also why I would trade Judge. It's just right now you're not hitting your window. You're talking about you think your shortstop might be an all-time great guy. Like there's a lot of things
2 to 3 years from now.
So you're missing time windows, right?
Yep.
You're talking about an older Aaron Judge. You're talking about all this stuff. Like that team is not ready for the moment. And you look at the Blue Jays. Springer only played half the year.
Mm-hmm. Well, he was hurt the first half.
Like this team is better than they were last year by a lot. Like, Chapman is a really nice player, lower batting average guy. So I'll say it's roughly a wash for him right this second in their infield.
Like comparing him against other teams?
No, because who'd they lose at second base? Or did they?
Simeon?
Did they keep him or
they lost
he went
him.
to the Rangers.
Right, so I'm saying his bat went away. Chapman is
fine. So yeah, sure,
right?
wash.
So you wash there, but Springer is the bigger deal to me. Is that he only played half the year. Berrios was a trade deadline guy. He's there all year.
Yeah.
I don't know. To me, that team is. They learned how to win at the end of the year. They learned how to get after it at the end of the year. They were right there on the cusp of being in the playoffs. The Yankees' biggest problem is the rest of the division got way better.
Yes.
And they've been cash-strapped by being misaligned. I think they took a step forward towards that, but I think the ultimate moves for them, people would lose their mind over if I said. But, I would trade both Cole and Judge.
Well, one of those definitely isn't going to happen because I don't think anyone's going to pick up Cole's contract.
I think you're crazy. I think somebody would pick up Cole's contract.
I don't know. But
Can we also talk about the Yankees being a poverty franchise now? Because we've all had this conversation.
Hey, listen, they're the third highest spender this year.
So they're the third highest spender, but what we've all talked about and what we've all discussed is way back in the day, the Steinbrenner family had a lot more money comparable to other people in the league.
Mm-hmm.
However, the other part of it is that it was George who had all the money, right? It wasn't the H brothers, right? And Hal's now running the team. I think Hal's individualized net worth is like $1 billion. Now, I know that this sounds crazy to say he's only worth $1 billion, but hold my beer for a second. The owner of the Toronto Blue Jays net worth is $5.6 billion. So the Blue Jays their ownership group is at least twice as rich as the Yankees. And if we're going 1-to-1, the guy in full operational control versus the guy, it is 5 times more money, right? What's the net worth of the Red Sox ownership group?
A lot of money.
Well, so and like you hear me what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
The Yankees are now just not able to compete financially, and Yankees fans don't want to hear that because they think that the '90s was what it always was.
$9.81 billion.
$9.81 billion. So we're talking now that if we're going with the total of a Steinbrenner family net worth, Boston is roughly 4 times more. If we're going just based off of the guy in operational control, they're 9 times more. The Yankees are just in their own division, and in most of baseball now, if you look at the high spenders, they're just not those guys.
Yeah.
And maybe we're going to be seeing an ownership exchange in the not-too-distant future.
I don't know, but they definitely have to be, or they're at least running the team as if they need to be more economical. The number may say different, but I don't look at that team and think you definitely spent as much as the Dodgers are. You know what I mean?
Because what would make you think that Cohen is willing to just spend away? There's one move that he could do right now that they're trying to see if they want to do. And it's an internal move that they could do.
I don't know.
Buy out Robbie Cano.
Oh, yes, that's right.
He could buy out Robbie for $40 million and let Robbie walk into the sunset with him. Right? Take your money, take your ball, go home. Right? Now, he hasn't done it yet because I think they're like, hey, we don't know if Robbie can hit like Robbie. Right? And if Robbie can hit like Robbie has hit, there is no world where we should let Robbie Cano go.
And we also have a DH now, so he could be healthy all season.
Correct. Even though I think that Dom Smith is feeling spry and energetic.
He is feeling spry.
And he might be the full-time DH. But,
Which I love that for Dom if it is the case.
1,000%. Mets currently have too many bats. They need to consolidate. But he could have Robbie walk tomorrow. And that's power of the dollar that I think the Yankees don't exercise anymore. Right? And I haven't seen too many teams do it recently. That, to me, is the bigger sign of, do you have money to spend? Right. Is, hey, we're on the precipice of paying a whole bunch of luxury tax. We're just going to buy out this guy's $20 million. And by buying him out and not playing him, I actually save $5 million. I'm going to do that. Clip him. Well, you had to pay him for both years. Yeah, but you know what? By getting him off our actual salary, I've lowered the number. I don't care if I pay him $40 million up front.
Yep.
What's that to me?
He's taking up a roster spot at the end of the day.
Taking up a roster spot. The Yankees could do that, right? They could buy out bad contracts. They haven't done it in years. And the guy who showed me that the Yankees are not in that boat anymore was, what's his name, the outfielder who got hurt. He was Boston.
Ellsbury?
Yeah, Jacoby. Jacoby sat there. I think he got paid $8 billion to throw a ball one time.
Yep.
So
it's playing all of one game.
My Lanta.
Yeah.
My Lanta.
Definitely. Well, you have to pop over to the National League too. I know the AL Central is fine. I still think the White Sox are still going to probably run that.
White Sox are a good program right now.
Yeah. Correa going to the Twins was odd.
You know who else was odd? Who was the signing that went to
Chris Bryant?
Chris Bryant.
To
the Rockies?
Yeah.
Yep, Chris Bryant.
What in the Sam heck? Didn't y'all just let your superstar third baseman leave not too long ago?
Chris Bryant's not playing third base. He's playing left field for them.
He's exclusively?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, that's right. That is a thing.
Okay. But
also,
man.
it's the same contract roughly as Arenado.
Which is just like, absolutely like what?
Mind-boggling on both sides.
I don't know.
From his perspective, after analyzing it a little bit, he is a Boris guy. So he just went, got his bag, whatever. Cool. But I thought for at least in theory, the caliber player that he is, I was hoping he would go to a contender of some kind.
Why?
Because I like to see good players play in big games.
He's got a ring already.
Sure. That's what I'm saying. I understand from his perspective, why he went and got his bag and fine. But I don't know. For me, I wanted to see him on a good team.
But that's the super challenge is this isn't the NFL.
Sure, that's fine.
The NFL, all the great players consolidate on good teams.
Yep.
And then if you're a bad team, you have to pay Christian Kirk $20 million to come play receiver.
And then trade Laviska Shenault to the Chiefs.
And then, is that what happened today?
That's rumored to be happening.
Mm-hmm.
Again, I love that. I love that.
Yeah.
I love that.
But that move was interesting. More from the Rockies' perspective, because it's you're putting a lot of money where you need to put it out elsewhere.
Yeah.
But fine.
That seems like a weird flex, but okay.
Yep.
Right? Weird flex, but okay.
Yeah. The NL East is going to be fun.
Oh, bloodbath.
Yep.
An absolute bloodbath. We obviously have a bias here on the show for the Mets, but
it's not just us. The Mets are the most bet on World Series team.
Yeah, but that's also because more people live in New York than live anywhere else.
Fine.
So you
okay. So separately from that,
it's also legal in New York. You got to take that.
You got to hit me where you hit me.
Fine.
So I don't want to hear about that noise.
But we're the third highest World Series odds, which is not what we control.
So that is not what betting is about.
They're
third
the fourth.
Highest.
Fourth. Okay.
And the odds are shaping fine. They're top 5 team.
Yep.
Sure. But where are the Braves and where are the Phillies in that relationship?
The Braves are actually tied with the Mets. They're both plus 1,000. The Phillies are plus 2,500.
So Phillies are down a full point. They're down a full.
Which I think is too much, honestly. I think the Phillies have a very good baseball team now.
I think the Phillies are going to hit a lot of home runs.
They are going to hit a lot of home runs.
I don't necessarily know if they're a good baseball team.
They have good pitchers, and they have good hitters.
They have
Cy Young caliber and Zach Wheeler.
So hit me with this, and this is the conversation that we always have, right? How order just in their own division, where does their number 1 pitcher sit?
Third.
So if their number 1 pitcher is sitting third, he's not a Cy Young
Oh no, he'll come in third in the voting to the 2 other guys on our team.
Yep. So where does their number 2 guy sit?
4th or 5th. Their 1-2 is pretty solid. Aaron Nola's been a Cy Young caliber guy.
Sure. Still not there. So what about the Braves?
Braves starting arms are Max Fried, Charlie Morton. So you're talking about probably 5-6 there?
Okay.
Yeah. I'd actually probably put Fried above Aaron Nola.
That's my point.
Yeah.
Right? So now you're looking at a situation where they're not in contention in their own division for the best pitching staff.
Mm-hmm.
And are arguably neck and neck with one of the other teams, even on the best days. Then we start going through lineup. There are a couple monsters in the lineup, but those monsters are a different kind of monster to me.
Yeah.
I think Bryce Harper is wildly overrated. I've made this declaration a number of times. That does not mean I do not think Bryce Harper is good. Right? I know he is good.
Mm-hmm.
My problem is he also is very up-down. He typically has followed great years with bad years. He's also had multi-year slumps. The catcher,
JT Realmuto.
He was this God's gift to the world when he was getting ready to sign.
Mm-hmm.
He hasn't contributed to winning.
Yeah.
Right? No matter where he's been, it's not like that team's been great. He's never been a catalyst that's been like, hey, I am lifting the organization up and we're substantially better for who I am. Secondarily, catchers tend to fade faster, right? Last year he wasn't who he's been.
Do you have his numbers?
I do.
Go for it, Dietz.
So last year, Real Muto was a 263 batting average, 17 home runs, 73 RBIs, 782 OPS, which was his lowest OPS since 2016.
Okay.
Right?
And then Harper had whatever he kind of had an almost MVP year.
Yeah, and he didn't win the MVP?
I thought he won MVP.
He won MVP, even better.
It's
been a while.
Wait a second.
I was like, that sounded right.
A lot of stats and things that go
Yeah,
on.
We're a professional podcast.
I know.
We're top 10 podcast, Canada. But like when you look at that, to me, like the last season is an outlier, not for Real Muto, because that's where I think he's actually trending. Last season's the best season of Harper's career since 2015. So he just had
He won MVP that year?
in 2015, yeah, I believe he
did,
won
right?
MVP
Okay.
in that year. So you're now looking at him and you're starting to kind of stack some of this stuff together.
Mm-hmm.
And what are the chances that he follows up that year when last year was 100 OPS points higher than any of the previous 3 seasons before it?
What are the chances? I don't know, but I think with the other
You
addition,
do know.
Sure, they're not.
He's not going to be the guy he was last year.
Maybe not, but I do think that with the additions they made, he doesn't have to be.
My thing, though, is that how good was that team last year?
They came in second,
Right.
But it was like because the Mets fell off.
It was more the Mets falling off that helped
Yeah.
everybody in the division more than it was any of them playing so well that it was. And then the Braves won the World Series.
Yep.
So the division is hard, right? Games in the division are hard, period, end of sentence. I get it. I am of the mind that I can understand why the Phillies are a little dropped down from both of those other teams.
Mm-hmm.
Atlanta had magic in a bottle. I don't think that they're going to necessarily have that, especially because the heart and soul that has always carried them has been the guy they just let walk.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, they are getting Acuna back.
They are.
So that's
$1,000,000%.
helps
And
them.
Acuna was their best player.
Yep.
And I get that. I really do. More to me, though, is where's Jock at? Is Jock re-signed?
Jock's with the Giants now.
So, big acquisition that helped you guys a lot through the postseason. Gone. We talk
They
about
lost
clutch.
Jorge Soler also.
We talk about clutch hitting. We talk about all the things that make things happen. The only team that got better in the division was the Mets. Everybody else either held par to me or made a move that made them better but not substantially changed the outlook for
you
them.
can't say that the Phillies didn't get better. They added Castellanos and Schwarber to that lineup.
That's 2 all-star bats.
That's really good.
Yeah, but so to me, Schwarber, it goes to the same thing. Like, Schwarber is going to be only a DH for them.
I
Probably.
mean, they have him listed
Right?
as their left fielder here.
So then my question is, where did they lose
But
some?
him
like,
and
who's
him and
out of-
Castellanos can flip-flop in DH.
Who's out of the lineup?
From previous,
To
Didi. Is Didi
McCutchen?
still there?
Didi is still in shortstop, yes. I think McCutchen was their left fielder last year.
and I'm pulling up because Castellanos became like this cultural sensation, right?
It's a deep drive to left.
But we're talking again that Castellanos is a career 278 batting average guy who just popped off a 309 batting average season. Right? Last year was by far the best year of his entire career. He hadn't had 500 plus at bats since 2018. And again, we're now pulling this guy in and saying, "Oh wow, he is this or that." Schwarber's monster bat. But let's be real. How many home runs did Schwarber hit the last 3 weeks of the season? Didn't he hit 14 home runs in a 2-week window?
He also got hurt.
No, I get it.
Yeah, so in all reality, they replaced Andrew McCutchen or some random player, like just a fringe guy, with Kyle Schwarber and Nick Castellanos.
And Schwarber hit 25 home runs in only 72 games with Washington.
Yep. He was absolutely mashing.
and then hit 7 in 40 games with Boston. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely dropping nukes all over the place. But when he got traded from Washington to Boston, he got a 291 batting average, right? His OPS went up. All his stuff went up. We talk about the offense that happens in the AL East. What's that bump? Like in Phillies, he's going to get that, but then he's going to go and try to scoop those shots, and he's going to be in Citi Field. He's going to be in Marlins Park, and that's going to be an easy fly ball. Like, I think the Phillies are building the Yankees, and that's not a bad thing, but I don't know if that's good enough to win that division.
The way I look at those 3 top teams, I would definitely say, just based on our conversation about their pitching staff and what their lineups look at, I think they're all relatively comparable, which is good. It's going to be really good competition. It'll be interesting to see who pushes forward. I think the Phillies have the potential to have the best lineup, honestly, just from the amount of pop they have. But they also could be very boom or bust, and they've shown that in the past. So I don't know, but I think I'm not gonna drink the Kool-Aid too much with the Mets. But I think they have a very nice, well-rounded lineup. I expect a lot more, honestly, from Lindor this year. I think
he's been swinging pretty well right now. But listen, he swung well last.
Yes, the end of last season was who I expected him to be.
Spring training, he hit well.
Last year?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then he came out and he slumped horribly.
Yes, and I don't foresee that happening this year.
I agree. I think he's prepared for what this whole thing is like.
Yes, I like the additions we've made. I'm excited with the way the team looks. But again, I'm not going to drink all the Kool-Aid. I think everyone's very neck and neck. I actually do think the Braves' more impactful additions were in their bullpen. They've loaded up some good arms there. And I think that plays a big role down the stretch with big games. So they have to be in them for it to matter, but I do think they will be there in some capacity because now they know how to win. They have a lot of good veteran players.
I just don't. We're underselling that Escobar is the Mets' third baseman now, and he was All-Star last year.
That's what I'm saying. He's a good player.
I'm just again go. You go line by line for me with the Mets lineup.
Are you happier with him than J.D. Davis? Because you campaigned for him a lot.
J.D. to me, the biggest thing that he doesn't provide is even MLB quality third base play.
Yes, which Escobar does.
Escobar
for sure.
at least has MLB quality like third base play.
Yep.
Their bats are probably comparable. That's why I think J.D. Davis is ripe for a DH trade, especially with so many National League teams.
Apparently, the Angels inquired about him.
I love it.
But they I think they signed a reliever or something instead.
Which I don't understand. I don't know how those two connect.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
and then at the same time, like Jeff McNeil, like did they fix whatever that relationship was?
They have publicly said yes. I don't know how real that is, but publicly it has been acknowledged and they've moved on.
Okay, so they said, yeah, we were like McNeil was going through some shit and he's out of it.
Yep.
If that's the truth and McNeil's back to being McNeil, the Mets have the best lineup of baseball.
I want McNeil to go back to being the contact hitter that he was and not the I want to hit home runs guy. That's all I want.
I'll say right now, the Mets have the best 1-2 punch in all of baseball by far. At the time, I'm not talking 1-2 punch. I'm talking for leadoff hitter, number 2 hitter.
Okay.
First and second. The Mets are the best. You're going to have Marte lead off, right?
Sure.
Or are you going to have Nimmo lead off? To me, Nimmo's leading off for me.
Yeah, I like him
because
as leadoff
Nimmo
hitter.
has a higher on-base percentage.
I like him as leadoff.
And then separate from that, what we've all talked about from that is I would rather a guy who's got a high on-base percentage, but he carries it mostly from a high batting average, which is Starling Marte, who last year between two different teams batted over 300. So he then goes in the 2-hole and he has speed. So no matter who's on, you have wheels. And you're not going to block Marte by having Nimmo on the base pass. He's not that slow, right?
No, absolutely
They're comparable speed. Maybe Nimmo's a little slower, but
he steals bags too. He's a good player.
Then you're going to have Lindor. On the bases, you're now in trouble.
Yep.
And then if any of those people are on, you have to throw fastballs to Pete Alonso. then the lineup gets interesting. You got like 4 dudes who have hit 30 home runs below that.
Mm-hmm.
You got
It's
Jeff
probably-
McNeil, who's batted over 320 like 3 out of the last 4 years.
Yeah, where are they gonna put him? Probably 6, 7?
6 or 7.
But then it's like you got Dom,
'Cause
Eduardo,
Because who's
Canna.
to mix up Pete and whoever's behind Pete. You're probably going to have Dom bat behind Pete.
So you're thinking Nimmo, Marte.
I'm going Nimmo, Marte, Lindor, Pete Alonso. Then I'm going with Dom Smith.
Okay.
Then I'm going with Escobar. Then I'm going McNeil. Then I'm going.
That's 7.
Then I'm going.
You need a catcher and
Then I'm going Kana. Then I'm going McCann.
sure.
And then Robbie Cano comes off the bench.
And that's also to me why like I personally think like they should move on from Robbie.
Mhm.
And I don't know what they could do. The Mariners are still paying part of that money. They're paying $7 million this year for Robbie.
Yep.
So like I would get rid of Robbie. I'd pay the balance. I'd take the cat or I'd trade Robbie and I'd pick up even more of the money.
Oh, I don't know who the heck would pick up Robbie.
Well, at this point in time, if Robbie can hit, the biggest
could
issue,
be like a trade
the
deadline move,
biggest
something
issue
he's
that the
bad.
Mets face is Robbie Cano right this second, a better hitter than McNeil. I don't think so. And then I have a hard time saying, do we think right now that Robbie Cano is going to be a better hitter than J.D. Davis, even as a DH, exclusively?
Yeah, I can't say for sure. I'd probably err more towards JD.
And JD's
Yeah.
been mashing for the last 3 years.
Yep.
Like he's a mid 800 OPS guy.
Mm-hmm.
So like, but that doesn't mean that 800, 820 OPS Robbie, who can also play a little bit of shortstop, maybe occasionally first base for a right team. Like, if we're gonna pick up money too,
Mm-hmm.
we're gonna send the $7 million that the Mariners are sending us. We're gonna send $7 million of our own money. You guys gotta pick up $6 million to pay Robbie
Yeah,
to come bat 280 and hit 20 home runs for you.
it's not a bad idea.
So I don't know. I think the Mets have options. I think they're going to do something, but right now I think they're going to let it fly because they don't know who's going to get hurt.
Yeah,
You never know who gets hurt.
Yeah.
Right now, don't trade anything.
that's
Don't.
why I don't mind the Mets more often than not have had lack of depth. So I'm down
Yeah.
to just
Yeah, the
have
fact
all the
that
people.
Pilar and Villar were the guys who were playing for us all the time last year, and now it's like
facts. We went through like 50 people in the first half of the season.
now it's like our backup is Robinson Cano and J.D. Davis.
Yeah, it's
Like that's who's coming off the bench to swing a bat. Like
not a bad situation to be in.
yeah. So out of all the rules that changed, so we haven't really gotten to talk about that together.
That's fine.
Out of all the rules, what's your favorite one that got instituted in the new CBA?
I would say probably the universal DH.
The universal DH, I would say that to me is definitely it had to happen.
Yes. Now, granted, I loved watching Jacob deGrom hit because he was very good at it. But other than Jacob deGrom and Shohei Ohtani, pitchers aren't fun to watch hit. So
And Madison Bumgarner.
and Madison Bumgarner, sure.
Bless you.
I have to
Thank you.
imagine that he still will get Madison Bumgarner will still get a pinch hit here and there, just because he is who he is. But that's probably my best. I do think it's amazing that they actually had to add the Ohtani rule.
I think it needed to make
It
sense.
makes total sense, because, but it's obviously never been a question before.
Well, so the craziest thing to me is, like, what become the implications of this, right?
Right. It's how
Because
do they start?
we've talked on this show that Ohtani existing is going to change how teams look at players moving forward.
Yes. Well, that was the idea with that rule, is that they want to encourage more two-way.
And now you're gonna see more two-way guys. So like
hope so.
famously, right? The Mets, you might remember the player, Ike Davis.
Yep.
Ike Davis was the closer for Arizona or Arizona State. I forget which one he went to, but he was the closer there. He was a lefty throwing 90, 92, somewhere in that mix. He came in one time because the Mets had burned through relievers and a whole bunch of stuff. Pitched great. Could you imagine that you start having guys like that, especially first basemen, because a guy's not really chucking his arm all the time, being over at first base. Like, hey, we need this guy can also pitch. Like he can do this. We can keep his bat in the lineup. He's a good first baseman. We're gonna have him come in, do this. We don't have to. It just changes so much of the strategy. Because now double switches, different things, like why are you moving a guy? Like where am I going to move my DH to first base? Right? Because he was my DH and my pitcher. Well, but now I don't have to take him out because I took him out. I took him out as a pitcher, so I also now had to take him away from the other. No, now I don't.
Maybe that's the move. They start either one way or another taking your a decent reliever that's athletic, teach them how to play first base, don't have to use their arm that much.
Well, I'm even more saying is that you look at guys who are in the infield who have cannon arms, who stop pitching because they hit enough and they do enough, but like they're not a starter, but could they be a reliever? So now do you in the minor leagues start looking at your guys who've got hoses? Like, hey, our first baseman throws 93.
Well, I mean, that's always a conversation that I know a lot of people deal with. Like, Jacob deGrom was one of them. He was a shortstop, threw 97 across the diamond. They're like, hey, we're going to put you on the mound.
Friend of just us in life, Nick Girardi.
Yep.
Right? You
exactly.
want to talk about Nick Girardi throwing 97 miles an hour as a lefty, playing the outfield, and all of a sudden they see him crow hop from the outfield, a 101 mile an hour throw, and he hummed it like 340 feet. All the way to the catcher on the fly on a rope. Mm-hmm. And they were like, you are no longer an outfielder, sir. And he transferred schools just so he could hit. And then he won his league's MVP award as the best hitter. Like, that guy, he was Shohei Ohtani before Shohei Ohtani. Yep. If that kind of player had been able to, if the culture was there for that, he would have been drafted way higher because you wouldn't have said, well, you got to choose one. Well, you're a reliever. We're going to spend 1 or 2 days a week where we just have you work with the pitching coach just to refine your stuff.
Yeah, just
you
only
throw
need 2
every
pitches.
day anyway.
You need 2 pitches to be a reliever now. That's
you
it.
know?
Yeah.
And if you're throwing 97 from the outfield, cool. Now guess what? A guy who bats 255 with some pop and some stuff, he stays because not only is he playing part-time as an outfielder, he's also a reliever.
It's economical for the team. It opens up another spot.
Opens up so many other opportunities. How do you price those guys? Ohtani will teach us.
He certainly will, but Ohtani is also just different. I don't think you'll see a starter as a 2-way for a little bit. I think the reliever is more the.
I think the reliever's the way.
That makes the more sense.
That you'll get it soon.
Yes, definitely. I mean, it could probably happen right now. If we're being honest.
My favorite of all of the things that happened is most likely the things that were instituted for. Limiting service time manipulations.
Yeah, that's big.
So the rule is a full service year will be awarded to a player who finishes in the top 2 for their league's Rookie of the Year voting. So, like, again, let's go, Adley Rutschman, who did not get pulled up last year, hopefully does this year and starts the season where if he had gotten brought up last year after the deadline, but then finishes as the Rookie of the Year, the service time manipulation immediately disappears. I love that because the reality is that means that 4 or 5 guys have an argument all the time for getting a full year of service time.
Yep.
If they were manipulated. But the second thing that they did to try to even push that further is teams are going to get draft picks if they have players on opening day who finish as a top vote getter. So that now gives the team like, hey, we know we have a Rookie of the Year award winner. Like, we have Bobby Witt Jr. Bobby starts right away. Mm-hmm. That increases his case. We pick up extra draft picks.
Yep. Same thing with Adley.
Which actually doesn't mean that you pick up more picks. It means you pick up more draft pool.
Right, for
That's
lottery.
the bigger piece.
Yeah.
Because if I pick up another, let's say that they gave away it was a 5th round pick. I just got an extra $250,000. Mm-hmm. I can overdraft a player in the first round. I can give him an extra $250K, then I can give that guy $500K. Right? I've now added to how much my pool allotments are. Mm-hmm. So if you bring up young players, cool. Who else benefits from that? Teams like the Orioles.
Yep.
Hey, it makes sense for us to bring our guys up, get all these things. We'll get more draft picks, and that'll lead to us being able to foster more guys, and then we'll trade them and we'll make cash.
Mm-hmm. No, it makes perfect sense. I'm glad they did that.
That was my favorite thing.
Are you excited about the 12-team postseason?
I'm torn.
Okay. I know a lot of the whole process was about that. I know.
I am excited from the stance that Blue Jays would have made it last year.
Hmm?
And I think that winning a division in general, when you have only a few, was already making it that we were saying a great division, like the AL East. It was so hard to win it, and then we're going to punish another team, and we could have a division winner from a completely different division be worse than all of the teams from one whole division.
Yep. So
by having more quote-unquote wild card teams, to me, it opens up the competitive balance. It makes it that if you are in a great division, it no longer matters. Perfect example is the NFL. The AFC West could have 4 teams out of 4 teams make this upcoming year's postseason.
Mm-hmm.
So you didn't have to just win the division because there's 3 wild cards.
Right.
And those 3 wild cards could all come from that one division. And that should happen if those teams are that good. If they beat everybody but each other, and they beat up on each other, but they're killing the rest of the league, they should be in the postseason. And there it's a roll of the dice of who gets to go. So I'm happy that you're going to have your division winners, and then you're going to have the very best teams make it.
Yeah.
And more of the very best teams making it is good. Now, the alternative is we're going to have a year where a team with like a 500 or sub-500 record makes it. A la we had the...
You always had the Mariners with that.
Yeah, well, we're going to have it much more consistently.
Yes.
You had a year where
I think it was the Seahawks finished 7-9 and they made the playoffs.
Well, the Redskins, or I guess the Washington football team.
Nope,
Commanders.
No, at the
Third
time
time
they were the Washington football team.
Oh, that's right. That was 2 years ago?
Yeah, they were 7 and 9.
Yeah.
And they won their division.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to have stuff like that when you allow more teams in. Yes, we will get that. But I also do think that more teams in a tough division will keep their guys because there's no reason to dump because you're not going to make it, right? Like, hey, we actually have a line to it.
Mm-hmm.
And that will keep good players on teams, and it won't create the movement as much. Guys will pay guys. Guys will stay in. So
right.
I like it from that stance. What I hate, and I know won't change, there does not need to be 162 games. The reason why baseball always had only 4 teams make it, and at one point in time there were no wild cards, but the reason why there 4 made sense is we just played 162 games, and everybody's played each other, and everybody in a division has played each other oodles of times. We know who's good and who's not as good. The regular season matters. The postseason is the celebration of surviving the marathon.
Right.
Now, what's the point? I don't have to turn up until May, June. I'm the 6th best team. Cool, I'm in. But my team's healthier. We came on late.
Mm-hmm.
We beat everybody's ass. We make a big trade at the trade deadline. Like, I didn't need to be good from head to tail.
Yeah.
I can pick and choose. Then why are you having so many games? And they won't do it because that would take money away.
No, absolutely. But that's also why, as much as it was going to cut money, people weren't going to be shocked if they cut the April part of the season because nobody really cared about it for whatever the weather or not getting people up, whatever the case is. It didn't matter because it's so far from the end.
Yeah.
I don't disagree with you. I think having less games would be better in terms of health, the quality of play, all that stuff. People be more excited about games on a game-to-game basis.
Spring training would actually be all spring and not part of winter.
Yep. Give players more time to rest. Start spring training a month later.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah.
Longer careers.
Yep.
Less wear and tear. More development. A better product on the field. Like, I could go on and on and on and on.
Yes, you could.
But the challenge is that The owners don't want that because they'd make less money. The players don't want that because then the owners would ask to pay them less.
Mm-hmm.
So everybody will just agree to continue to do something that doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. You look at the NBA, 8 teams, right? More than half the league makes the playoffs.
Right.
Don't they have the play-in now?
Well, now it's well more than half. 67% have a shot at the playoffs up until the day they begin, right? But truly, 8 teams are in the quote-unquote playoffs.
Right.
The teams who are in the play-in tournament even before that, they don't even count as being in. But regardless, 16 teams make it. There's 30 teams. So more than half the league makes it. So why do they play 80? Well, but NBA could play more games, right?
Sure.
Like these guys, it's physical, but you're not taking collisions into each other, right? Like there's rotations. Other guys are playing minutes in the game. You can manage minutes here and there. You can give a rest day here and there, and you can get guys to play more games. I just don't think that's the answer for them, right?
Mm-hmm.
Having the amount of games that they have with how records end up being, you almost always have guys who are the 6, 7, 8 seed who are around 500.
Right.
Right? Just it's how the league works, especially when you have more than half the league make it. Anybody who is at the bottom would either be on the cusp of 500 or below because that's how records work, right?
Yep.
You can't have more wins. But then the playoffs matter. One faces 8. You should knock them out. You should beat them.
Mm-hmm.
But you might not, right? And that makes that fun. The NFL, 7 teams make it, still less than, per side, 14 teams total. That's still well off from being at half. But they only play 17 games. Every game matters for that seeding.
Yep.
And you saw it this past year. Buffalo Bills didn't get home field advantage. It's the biggest reason why they're not in the Super Bowl. And you're talking that you could have teams win 13 games and not have a bye, right? Meanwhile, you'll have that in every other league, right? Or in baseball. Top 2 are going to get byes, right?
Yep.
So I really am torn on that whole idea. What's your thoughts on it?
I think I had a lot of the same. I do think it's going to be. I do think the fact that it's just kind of extending more. I think the way they're formatting is it's a 3-game wild card now, also, which I think is cool. I know the one and done, it has a lot of pressure, and it is a cool game. But I also like that the teams can kind of play it out a little bit more. Kind of forces you to like show the rest of your depth beyond getting your ones against each other, and whatever happens. But I think it'll be exciting. I like more playoff baseball in general, but the negatives that you were just talking about, they're there.
Yeah.
But no, I think it'll still be good. It'll be, especially that they're implementing it this year, where kind of it'll add to the playoff atmosphere from all this negativity we had in the preseason. But I think it'll be good, and like you said, it offers teams that were on the cusp that you were like excited about at the end of the season to have that opportunity to get in.
Because who would have made it? Who would have made it in the NL, Dietz?
Well, I know it would have been Mariners, Blue Jays in the AL. So, and those guys were like kicking at the end, so close. Dietz is pulling it up.
Well, how many playoff teams were there last year? There's 5, right?
There would have been no.
Last year there was 5.
Yeah, it was the 2 wild card teams play against each other. So last year it was the Giants, Brewers, Braves won their divisions. The Dodgers and the Cardinals were the wild card teams. Next 2 up would have been Cincinnati and Philadelphia.
So so Cincinnati had the better record?
Yeah.
So Cincinnati would have been in.
I remember that's right. They were kind of hunting at the end.
Right? So the Reds would have been in. I actually don't think that necessarily would have changed anything.
No, they probably would have still lost.
Right?
Yeah.
But now what would have it been in the AL? It would have been...
It had to have been Blue Jays.
It would have been the Blue Jays, right? By a game. They were 91 wins?
I will look that up. Hold on. They were... So it was Boston and the Yankees made it. Blue Jays were next team up, 91 wins.
Well, I'm saying in the American League, I think the Mariners had 90 wins.
Yeah.
Yeah,
so they would have been in by 1 win. So you would have had the Blue Jays, and who would the Blue Jays have played in the opening round? Who was the 3 seed?
The 3 seed was the White Sox.
They would have smacked the White Sox.
Yep, absolutely.
Right?
Then you're talking about Blue Jays, Astros.
They would have smacked the Astros.
Probably.
And then you would have had Red Sox, Blue Jays. And how did that season series play out? Right?
Don't
Because
know, yeah.
but like that starts to become my thing, right? I think Blue Jays have a real, if they've got that kind of fire going on at that point,
Mm-hmm.
and that's my thing. Like that would have been exciting,
The
Yes.
Red Sox won the season series last year against the Blue Jays.
right? So like
Attaboy, Deets.
that's how you hope it plays out,
Yep.
right? But then Boston's still there, and they're ready for the title.
Mm-hmm.
But Blue Jays would have got that shot, and we would have been Cinderelling. We would have been like, oh my God, the Blue Jays, they come in as the last wild, they win, they do all the shit they're not supposed to do. Yay, we have the NFL. Like that's what the NFL has that we just don't get in the other sports.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think basketball will ever have it. But baseball, I do.
Yeah, I think baseball affords more of an opportunity for a Cinderella story.
That's why baseball, I think that's the only thing that now gets me is like the drama for baseball gets so much better now.
Mm-hmm.
Because you already rarely had it that the number 1 seed wins.
Yeah,
Like
you don't get repeats really.
now you're going to have like the dark horse who's got nothing to lose. Like that team that's been on the come up. Because you look at all those teams, they're younger teams typically.
Yep.
Right? They have young guys. The guys were okay in the beginning of the year. They were really good in the middle, and then they become great at the end. And it's like, do we have enough to hit? And then we don't. We miss by this fractional thing. Now,
That was definitely Mariners and the Blue Jays last year. That's that exact story.
and if the Blue Jays get in with all the momentum going, whew, White Sox, I don't think stood a chance.
yeah,
That would have been.
they folded pretty quick in that first round.
And we would have been out here like, Blue Jays. Blue Jays.
Yep.
All right, give me one prediction for the upcoming year. Anything you want to predict.
One prediction. The Phillies are going to win the division. There you go. There's a prediction for you.
I'm down with that one.
Wow. I almost I'm almost speechless.
Okay.
Wow.
What's your one prediction?
We
We got a lot more predictions coming next week.
Yeah, I mean next week we were coming for stuff like that. So I wasn't expecting you to drop that in.
Mm-hmm.
My prediction for this upcoming season is we have the most 50-plus home run hitters in the history of baseball.
Okay.
In one season.
You think pitching's impacted by the shortened beginning?
And I no.
No.
And I think that we may in fact see one if not two 60 home run guys this year.
Okay. Last prediction question. On a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being Ohtani last year, what are we getting this year?
Meaning what?
Like Ohtani's numbers last year and his production being 10. What is he going to bring to the table this year?
12.
Okay. Word.
I think this.
I hope so.
I think this year is better than last year because. So again, barring injury.
Yep.
Which is
I'm assuming no injury.
Which is always the thing.
Fingers crossed.
He faded so much in the back half of the year with his bat because he was exhausted from having to be the guy and the spectacle of him doing it all. Right? At the All-Star game, he had no rest. Yeah. He was in every, I'm in the home run derby, I'm doing this, I'm at every interview, I'm going to parties, and he's an introverted person. It's not his style.
Oh, yeah.
And he was forced to be in that. And then he's doing interviews and photo shoots and all this stuff because it was the topic for humans to talk about for probably a 5-week window.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that with Trout out, no Rendon, him trying to kind of carry the team to victory with everything, I think he just gassed out differently than he will this year. I think he's going to have more protection. So I think, and then now also with the DH rule, he'll actually get more at bats. So with more at bats, I also think he'll produce more numbers.
Yep.
Because he won't require himself to come out. So yeah, I'm gonna go. If you think last year was a 10 on Ohtani, I think last year was an 8.5.
Oh no, so we're. I think I just made that as the scale of because he hasn't done anything beyond that yet.
Yeah, no, I'm
sure. Call it 10 plus. Fine. You're gonna go 12.
I don't think that last year is his best year.
Cool. That fire me up. I hope so.
I actually thought I thought his season would be better than he ended up.
Yeah, I think in the middle of the season we were expecting
because his pitching got
homers.
better.
Yes. Oh, his pitching was substantially better.
But his hitting got worse, and a lot of that had to do. You guys can watch
Did he finish sub 3?
ERA?
No, right?
Yes.
Shohei Ohtani. He was a 3.18. I think there was a point he was like a 2.7.
Well, no, but also the back half of last year, is where he was the best as a pitcher.
Yes,
because he went his ERA I think in the first half versus second half, and I'm pulling that up now, or I'm not because I'm only getting his hitting number splits. Yeah, he's weird. I can't. It's so hard to work his page for Baseball Reference.
Yeah,
because
they're still ironing it out.
but the bigger point to me is he hit 46 home runs in 537 at bats, but his batting average was only 257. I do think that his batting average, like his first half OPS was 1062. His second half OPS was only an 839.
Yeah.
I really do feel like he got sucked out being the guy in the back half of the year. And I just don't see him losing that.
Yeah.
And if he's that guy for the whole year, his slugging in the first half was 698. His slugging in the second half was 458.
Cool.
He's got room for more.
I hope so.
He's got room for more.
I agree with that, and I hope it's the case. And it starts off with Mike Trout being healthy. I need Mike Trout to get into some yoga and do whatever he needs to do to not fall apart.
Don't put 135 pounds on your back and
start running. Was that last year?
No, that's a bunch of years ago.
Okay.
The dumbest thing I've ever seen in my entire life. Kids out here thinking that's why Mike Trout's good. No, Mike Trout can do that because he's Mike Trout and he takes steroids. But he also just that wasn't what made him good. He's just doing it because he can.
Yeah,
crazy.
That was not good.
Nutty.
All right, so we got a big episode next week.
All
the
predictions.
1 week out from spring training. That will be that.
So
episode.
we're going
MVP, division winners,
Cy Young,
Rookie of the Year. I'll put together our list of things that we need.
All the big awards, all the major awards. Who's winning?
Hot takes. We're gonna have to make a whole list so we can keep track of everything.
And we won't talk to each other at all about any of these things until next week.
Yep.
Live on air.
Cool. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Make sure you like and subscribe. We'll see you on the next episode. 2 weeks out from opening day. Let's get it.
Peace.
Baseball lifestyle, it's my lifestyle.